Okay, welcome again to Vetenskap Demokrati. And this week we will talk about collective action problems and the tragedy of the commons. Before we get to collective action problems, though, let's start just by thinking about collective actions. Often we need to act together. In these cases, the individual members of a group will benefit if all the other people in the group do their parts to contribute to a common goal. Either because they're doing something that contributes to that goal, or because they're not doing something that could frustrate or get in the way of the group's goal. Okay. So these will be collective actions. So these are cases where the individuals do something while others also do something, and you can benefit only if you do your part in achieving that common goal. Okay, so here are a number of examples. Starting from the kind of very simple and obvious example. So we're going on the top left side here, the two children carrying a table together. So you want the table to move from this room to another room. You can't lift the table by yourself, so you are working together with someone else to lift the table. You do your part in order to achieve that common goal. You benefit, let's just go back to that. You benefit if all or enough of the other people do their part in achieving that common goal. Okay, so the two children need to cooperate in order to achieve that common goal. A relay, a stafette, in skiing or running. It's another example. You have different parties, they all want to win the medal, and they need to work together. Each need to do their part, run their own race, so that then the team will win. And they sing in a choir. Each needs to sing their own voice, so that then they achieve together the singing of this piece of music. So these are cases of what we might call joint actions, where we're all aware of all the participants who are acting together with us, and we're aware that we have that joint goal, and we are jointly trying to achieve the goal. So we're aware of all the things that are happening in the coordinating our actions. Not all collective actions have that structure of a joint action where we working together like that. Okay. There are going to be a lot of other cases where we all are doing a part so to achieve a common goal, even though we might not be even aware of all the other people. Okay. So here are some more examples. We might together have the goal to, for example, reduce useless waste or reduce environmental impact of waste. So then we each need to do our part, separating, for example, the trash into the different bins or not throwing the trash out into the streets. Okay. So here's a case where part of the contribution might be not to do certain things that would frustrate that common goal. So we as together have that goal of not living in a littered university building or not living in a city where there's a lot of trash lying around. And we need to do our part so that the goal is achieved. Vaccination is another example. So that is something that we now have heard much more about than any of us knew about 1 year or 2 years ago. When enough people are vaccinated against the disease, such as the coronavirus, then the population achieves herd immunity because the virus doesn't find enough other people to spread. So it doesn't find enough people to spread from one to the other. And if you have herd immunity, then everyone is protected from the virus. This requires, again, everyone to get vaccinated and do their part in achieving herd immunity from the virus. Collective action is also voting. We all need to participate in the act of voting to have a democratically elected government. We'll talk more about this. Another example where we are not at all aware that we are engaging in a particular collective action, if we together might have the goal of reducing traffic by cars or reducing climate gas emissions, we might all decide to do our parts by, for example, cycling even in the winter in Oslo. So then shopping, we might decide that we want to, for example, reduce climate gas emissions again, and then each of us does their part by, for example, buying things that produce fewer such emissions, maybe eat vegetarian. We've all heard about this concept of the dugnad in the corona times, where we are all supposed to do our part so that we together hold the virus in check. And of course, there's the original dugnad, where we, for example, collect trash. And again, these are all collective actions. We all need to do our parts so that a common goal is achieved. And these are the examples that a lot of us now know about from the current sort of situation. These are all cases of collective actions. We all do our parts so that a common goal, namely that a lot of people get infected, especially those who are vulnerable, that they're protected. That's our goal together as a nation, maybe as the world, so that each of us does a part. And sometimes that can be painful, working at home with a lot of children at home, working at home as a student who might have only a small apartment, who might be needing social connection, who doesn't have good internet access. Each of us does their part in using the coronavirus app, Smittestop, or another app. Each of us wears a mask, and we don't go to these big parties. We maybe reduce the number of friends we meet, live in our social bubbles, and so on. So these days, it's a lot of collective actions. That is, things where we have a common goal, and we each do our part to achieve that common goal. Okay, now we're going to get to problems. When does a collective action generate a problem? Problem arises when the collective action has the following structure, where the group of individuals would do best if all or most contributed to that collective action. But for the individual, each individual person, or at least for many persons, there's an incentive not to contribute to that collective action. So for us together, it's best if we all contribute, but each individual has an interest to not do that. So, I mean, here's this image that's supposed to illustrate this. Everyone sitting in their car saying, if these idiots would just take the bus, I'd be home by now. So it'd be best for us together if a lot of us, all of us took the bus, but each individually has an incentive not to do that, because if everyone else is taking the bus, then I can be very fast with a car. And that's, of course, something that you can see. I mean, in times when there's not so many people do home office. Also in Oslo, if you're coming from Sandvika or such a place, you'll see that there is a lot of traffic at certain times in the morning or in the evening. If everyone would take collective transport, we'd all be at work or in school or at the university earlier. But if you believe that enough others will do it, then it'd be good for you to just drive very fast on the road. Maybe it costs less, maybe it's faster, you're flexible, you can go shopping after you're done with work and so on. So these is one example of a collective action problem where the group would do best if each of us collectively contributed to the collective action, but an individual has an incentive not to do that. Now, not all collective actions generate such problems. Sometimes, arguably, there is no incentive for an individual to refrain from contributing, because their own interests just align with the interest of the collective. So if you're, for example, in that relay, I mean, there's no incentive for you not to ski as fast as possible, because there's no, I mean, there isn't, I mean, you just want to win the medal. And for that, you just need to run as fast as possible. Everyone needs to do that. There's no incentive for you to not do your part. And arguably the same in the choir, you have no incentive to not contribute your voice to the choir and these children, but there's no incentive necessarily, although we'll talk about it, for each person not to contribute to the carrying of the table. Okay. But in other cases, it's different. There are cases where there can be an incentive for the individual not to contribute to the collective goal. The car example was already one example. Now I'm going to talk about littering, so throwing away trash. So here's some thought that might appear to you. If everyone else doesn't puts their trash nicely into these bins, so doesn't litter, doesn't throw it on the street, there's really much of a difference to me personally if I just throw out the trash whenever I feel like it. I mean, it's just one little thing after all. I mean, it doesn't really look much uglier after I've thrown out that little coffee cup or whatever is depicted here. It is, after all, annoying for me to carry my trash to the bins, and I have to go through another building, and it's complicated and so on. So for me, given the tiny bit of trash that it just produces, it really is, for me, I have an incentive to not to go there. No one's going to even notice this little trash, right? So I benefit from just throwing my trash out. As long as everyone else doesn't also do that, it doesn't matter. Because the end result is this: a lot of trash is thrown out. So the outcome that might result is the one that's the least preferred by all of us. Okay, so that is often the result, that we end up all in the traffic jams, we end up all in a lot of trash. And we'll get to a lot more examples later. So these are the collective action problems where what's good for the individual and what's good for the group of which the individual is a part, they come in conflict. And we'll now, in the next video, try to understand that problem better by giving it a formal treatment.